How to pronounce in American English. Often.
Often.
Do you pronounce the T or no T?
Sometimes I pronounce the T. Like, I've been called out on this before, where someone's like, hears me say often, and then they say, no, it's often.
That feels really weird. Like,
Right.
pronouncing the T feels really weird.
But I think it's more correct to pronounce it without the T, of course. If you look it up in the dictionary,
It's so much smoother. It's so
Yeah.
much, and I think my biggest thing with English is I think English wants whatever allows the breath to keep flowing. I think that's what English really wants, and I think when you're putting that T in there, it just chops it up so much. I think my big concern too is I don't know, like if you've seen this with students, but like I think students really hate the letter N. Like the letter N is just like butchering people's English in a lot of ways, because what happens is your placement shifts up higher, so like often versus like often. Like a lot of people think letter N, it's the same across all languages, but like, you know, American English is really kind of favoring more like an versus like an You know what I mean?
Right, and you don't have the full like in sound that you would at the beginning of a word where it's n.
Yeah, exactly.
Often,
Yeah.
Without an often n.
Yeah.
Right?
Like you say often 3 times.
Often.
Yeah, because the thing that really stands out, and that should stand out in my opinion, is like the aw sound, like often. It's like ah. Like
Right.
that's the key part. That's the part that we need.
Data or data?
I hear people say both.
What do you say, Chris?
It shifts.
Like I appreciate the honesty.
I don't say it one way or the other, really. Like, I've said data, I've said data. Probably I say data now more often. I think they're both fine.
Yeah. I usually lean more data.
I think it's important for students, though, to understand that data is a plural noun because the singular form is datum
Right.
from Latin,
But
and nobody ever uses that usually.
So that's 100% true, but it becomes even trickier because you look at the grammar, but you're always going to see the singular verb. Like the data is...
I agree with you that a lot of native speakers, included, use the word data as a singular noun.
But when it comes down to it, do you say the data is or the data are?
I say data are.
Fascinating.
Even though people sometimes will be like, huh? And I'll be like, and then I'll explain to them, native speakers, I'll be like, well, I'm an English teacher. I know it's plural. And they'll be like, oh.
Wow. Okay. That's fair. That's fair. What determines whether something is right or wrong? Are we going based on grammar or are we going based on usage?
Usage has acceptable variations, right? And unacceptable. So, like, even not following the rule has a rule about how you don't follow the rule.
That's
right?
that's super important, I think. For instance, when people look at like black vernacular and things like that, people are like, oh, this is not...
It's not correct.
I'm like, no, it's super... There's a form. There's rules to this. You can't just say whatever you want. Like, there are specific rules to things.
Word.
Schedule.
Schedule it is. American English. But all the British English speakers and a lot of my students say schedule.
Yeah. The British influence is super
And
strong.
here there's also an interesting aspect of British and American English, which a lot of people don't even ever touch on. I think I haven't even made a video about it, where British English includes a lot more of the y sound before some combinations, and American English drops them.
Yeah.
And so, it will sound more like schedule in British English, and in American English, more like schedule with a ooh instead of a u. Yeah,
you see that in words like news, pollute, tube, things like that. Yeah,
exactly.
Watch out for those ooh sounds. Pronunciation. So no pronunciation.
No pronunciation. That's a mistake.
I
hear natives
even
say
native speakers will say that sometimes. Yeah,
but it makes sense because the verb is pronounce, and it shifts in the noun, and so. Makes sense why people confuse it. When a native speaker says pronunciation, then it just shows me that they're not really thinking about how they speak. And I think that's the curse of the English speaker, is that you start to analyze your speech so much that you make new choices because you have to analyze it.
Yeah. Genre?
I say genre.
Oh, you're more of a je son.
I'm a je, yeah. Okay. Because I know that it's French.
Got you. I'm seeing a theme here.
Yeah. So genre, I would pronounce with je. Sorry. Russian is the same. It has the je sound. So,
does Russian use the word genre, or do they have a Russian? Okay.
So but it's with an A, so it's genre. Do you say...
I say genre.
Genre?
I'm a heavier je.
One that's not on the list that's similar though. Niche.
Yeah.
Do you say niche or niche?
It depends. I'll say both.
Yeah.
Usually, I think nowadays I'm more of on a niche. Like, what's your niche?
Me too.
Yeah.
Again, because it just makes more sense. It's from French. That's The original.
I think it's also more common just in the YouTube spaces. A lot of people say, "Oh, what's your niche? What's your niche?" You know.
When I first started, there was so many people selling like training programs and talking about niches, but they would all say niche. Mostly American speakers, but
So I'm gonna guess for this next word that you say, croissant.
I don't. I say the English way, croissant. Croissant.
I would say croissant as well. Croissant.
I don't say croissant. Even though if someone said it to me, I would accept it as correct because it's a French word. So like I would accept it.
That's always tricky too because, and you know, you all watching this probably have this experience too, where I think when you're learning a language and you're talking to other people from your country, and a word comes up from a language you're studying, there's this battle that happens. It's like, how hardcore do I go into the pronunciation? Do I go the way, no, it's pronounced this way, so I need to do it like this, or do I pronounce it the way I know that my friends would? Because there's a lot of social linguistics involved, right? Like that's a what kind of power move do you want to do? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's very true.
I would say croissant, like you said. Watch out for that held T at the end. You know, say croissant. You know, croissant. Poem.
I say poem. I don't say poem.
Are you a Z or a Z person?
I'm a Z. I'm American.
Yeah.
Because British English is the Z.
Yeah.
But a lot of students say Z and catch a lot of American English teachers off guard because a lot of American teachers don't know.
That's very true. My very first year teaching someone, a student sat down, I was like,
What? Like what is that?
this sounds like someone from like Power Rangers. Like, what? So yeah, definitely in America. If you're trying to sound natural in North America, it's Z.
And now with the Russia-Ukraine thing, and Russians have like the Z as their symbol.
Yeah.
So again, in the news, the reporters had to deal with this because they're like, when they're writing stories about that, you read British English and it would say Z, and American English would say Z, and then American English speakers typically don't even know what Z is, but British English speakers typically know that American English speakers say Z.
Yeah. So it's
even though
not
it sounds funny to
exclusive.
them.
Yeah. February.
That's how I say it. February.
Do you ever pronounce the first R or no?
The R, if I need to speak very clearly so that someone understands, then I might say all the letters that are there, even though you don't usually pronounce them. But February, I think, is more correct.
Yeah. That's interesting you say it adds clarity, because to me it actually kind of makes it sound more muffled when you add the R sound, like February. Like February.
In that case, I would say February.
Oh, February. Oh, wow.
I would say February,
Oh,
the same way I would say February, but I would change the Y to the R.
Got you. Water.
That's not how you say it. That's not how you. But I know people who say it like that.
Go to Philly. I mean, in Philly, there are a lot of people who say water.
Yeah, I'd say water.
Water
with the very soft T, like a D, the American one. Water. But I know people who say water, water, something like that.
Usually,
and then in Boston, water.
Yeah, super high.
Water.
It's like usually it's going to be an ah sound or an aw sound. Those are your most like water or water.
What are we doing next?
I don't know. Stay tuned. Watch this video.